Yo, what is up guys? It's me, Zach Leanne.
You know why I'm here.
So all the All-NBA teams were announced yesterday afternoon, which seems a bit strange to say because by now we almost always know basically all of the awards. But since Drake wanted to be a part of the league so badly,
I don't give a damn about no damn Drake night.
The NBA threw him a bone and is going to let him do the announcing of the awards like MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, and so on in June after the NBA Finals come to an end. You know, he was also supposed to announce the All-NBA awards, but the NBA then realized it was about to make a big mistake by not giving teams enough time to realize whether or not they can afford to go after a player or not during the offseason, because the All-NBA teams can affect that, but we'll get into that in a moment. All right, so here are the teams. For the first team, you got Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Anyone have any complaints on this one? I didn't think so. Second team, you got Isaiah Thomas, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Rudy Gobert. Any complaints on this one? And then the third team, John Wall, DeMar DeRozan, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and DeAndre Jordan. And I'm not even gonna ask because I know this team has some people triggered, and that's because they feel like some players were clearly left off. One of the biggest being DeMarcus Cousins.
It's getting ridiculous. It's really ridiculous.
That one seems the most obvious. I thought for sure if he didn't make the first, he'd be on the second. And when he wasn't on the second, I was like, all right, you know, Gobert is a really good defender and had a really good year. Cousins will be on the third. And when he wasn't there either, I had to relook at the teams to make sure I wasn't going crazy. And then when I confirmed he wasn't on the list, I was like,
this is ridiculous, man.
He's considered to be the best center in the NBA by a bunch of NBA fans. One of the most skilled players in the NBA by a bunch of the fans. And it's not like he was having an off year or anything either. In fact, he had the best year of his career so far, averaging 27.8 points per game, 10.6 rebounds, 4.8 assists. I mean, that seems pretty good to me. And then in comparison, you look at DeAndre Jordan, and he literally had the exact same year that he had last year. I mean, his stats are nearly identical, except for a dip in blocks. Last year, 12.7 points per game. This year, 12.7 points per game. Last year, 13.8 rebounds per game. This year, 13.8 rebounds per game. Same 1.2 assists per game, and then his blocks went down from 2.3 to 1.7. And I'm just saying, Jordan is a nice center and all, but come on. There's no way he should have made it over Cousins.
Ridiculous.
And then there are other people who didn't make the team too, most notably Paul George and Gordon Hayward. For these two, I really thought one of them was going to make it, and only one, because for forwards you already had to include people like Jimmy Butler, Giannis, Durant, LeBron James, and Kawhi Leonard. And with those five, that only leaves space for one more. And it came down to three players: Green, Hayward, or George. And as you can see, they picked Green. And a lot of people aren't happy about that for one reason or another, either because they don't like Green or they just felt that Hayward or George should have made it over him. As you can probably tell, the voters value defense a lot in these team selections. The only reason Rudy Gobert made the All-NBA team at all is because he is a great defender. And while George and Hayward are both pretty good defenders, I mean, they're good defenders, they're not on the level of Draymond Green defensively. At the same time though, Green is nowhere near as talented as Hayward and George are. I mean, those guys can take over a game at any point. Draymond Green can have a huge impact on the game, but he is not taking over anything whatsoever. And even more importantly, George and Hayward not making the All-NBA teams is a terrible sign for the teams they are with right now, because now there is just about nothing that they can offer them to keep them that other teams can't. I mean, if they would have made the teams, if they would have made the All-NBA teams, the original team that drafted them could have offered them a much bigger contract than anyone else. They could have got that super max NBA contract that would have been worth $207 million over 5 years. Now they can only get $177 million over 5 years from the original team, or up to $131 million from a new team on a 4-year deal. If they would have made the All-NBA teams, the temptation to stay with the original team would have been super strong, even if they didn't want to be there. I mean, are you really about to leave that much money on the table? Because you're talking about $207 million versus $131 million. To put that into perspective, the difference they just lost out on is worth more than Steph Curry's entire contract that he's on right now. Heck, it's almost worth double Stephen Curry's current contract, and that's just considered as a bonus. Granted, you can expect Curry to get that 5-year, $207 million this offseason, but $76 million gone. That is if they leave. If not, it's only $30 million lost, but still, only right? But for these two guys especially, that loss of money could shake up the landscape of the NBA a little bit. Both guys have been surrounded in tons of rumors this year. Of course, Paul George was being linked to the Lakers and still is. And heck, after he missed out on the All-NBA team this year, he's as good as gone to LA in the summer of 2018, since Indy no longer has an extra $76 million to bribe him with. And same for Hayward in Utah. Now, Hayward hasn't been as clear-cut as George has been about his offseason intentions this year. I mean, he has given indication that he strongly considers staying with the Jazz, but if you were able to make, I don't know, an extra $76 million in doing so, then a bunch of the Hayward to Boston rumors could have been squashed. Which leads us perfectly into this. Up until the NBA draft, up until the Celtics do or do not trade the pick, you can expect tons of stories to come out about this. I mean, there were two more that came out just yesterday alone. First off, we have Woj of ESPN saying that Boston will most likely not trade their pick, not in an effort to build around Fultz or anything either, but because they feel they don't have to in order to get the player they need. See, instead of trading Fultz for Jimmy Butler, why not simply keep Fultz and then go all in on Gordon Hayward once July hits? I mean, Jimmy Butler might be the better overall player between he and Hayward, but the difference in their abilities isn't much, and definitely not enough to give up Fultz. Why trade assets to get Butler when you think you have a chance at getting Hayward in this summer, where they have the cap space to sign him and you don't have to trade anything? Boston could possibly know closer to the draft where they stand with Hayward, but I think Danny Ainge has not gone all in with this group yet. And having the #1 pick this year, and potentially a #1 pick again next year with Brooklyn's pick, he doesn't have to take that kind of risk. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, why would you risk it all on Butler when you can take the safer route in getting Hayward? Look, it's time to face reality. The Boston Celtics need more than simply Jimmy Butler to win a championship. With Butler, would they make things interesting in the East? Definitely. Could they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers? The odds would still be against them, but it's possible. But then you still have to deal with the Warriors. I mean, the Cavs aren't even the favorites to win the NBA championship this year. Going up against the Warriors, they're the underdogs. Now that could very well change next year though. I mean, if the Cavs manage to beat the Warriors this year, and then you somehow make your team good enough to beat Cleveland next year, then yeah, who's to say that you won't beat the Warriors or whatever team comes out of the West? But like I said, it's gonna take much more than just Jimmy Butler to be able to accomplish that. It's gonna take more than just keeping Fultz and signing Hayward too. But if they keep Fultz and pursue Hayward, they will still have more assets to be able to go out and get the other pieces that they need, such as a dominant rebounder. Maybe if the Clippers fall apart this year, you can reach out to them about DeAndre Jordan. Or if Whiteside is available, they can go after him, something like that. And if you can't manage to get any of those rebounders, then you're still in a much better position than you would have been if you had just traded Butler, since like I said, you still have a bunch of assets. So I think at this point, it's really Gordon Hayward or bust. I don't think if they miss out on Hayward that Boston goes after Butler at all. I mean, it's just too costly. Anyways though, like I said, this wasn't the only story that came out about the Boston Celtics. There was also another one regarding Isaiah Thomas talking about the possibility of playing with Markelle Fultz next year.
Yeah, I talk to him all the time.
But since the letter?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, what did you tell him?
That was between me and him. He's excited though. I mean, he obviously don't know where he's going, but I mean, he's excited about the opportunity.
But you've told him a lot about the culture here.
Yeah, he has questions. He has questions. I answer him, and I'm just he's a good friend of mine. So if it happens, like, we'll figure out how to play together. If not, then we'll go from there.
No doubt, offensively, a combination of Fultz and Thomas could be deadly, and Fultz is big enough where he could play the 2-guard. I mean, he's a bit undersized, but he is listed at the same 6'4" that Dwayne Wade is, and he is just an inch shorter than guys like James Harden. You know, that being said though, height isn't everything, especially on defense, and I'd be a bit nervous calling upon a rookie to guard guys like James Harden or DeMar DeRozan. I mean, he'd get absolutely murdered trying to guard them. But then that's what you have a guy like Avery Bradley for. He's also extremely undersized for a 2-guard, but he's still one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. And Boston has at times used lineups of Bradley, Smart, and Thomas. So I wouldn't put it past them to do something similar with lineups of Thomas, Bradley, and Fultz. So, you know, IT and Fultz could most definitely work out in Boston. And then, like I said earlier, you add Gordon Hayward to the mix, plus a legit rebounding big man, and that's a team that I think more people would be able to bet on when it comes to their chance of winning it all. And on top of that, like I said, you don't have to give up as many assets. And that's going to lead us perfectly into the question of the day. And yesterday's question today was pretty similar. It was after Paul Pierce said that Boston had to trade the pick. I asked you guys if Boston should trade the pick or not, and got a lot of mixed answers in response. The Celtics need to trade the pick. Isaiah is getting old, and if you want to win a ring with him, do it now. Draft picks are not going to be good straight away. Trade the pick. Again, as a Celtics fan, I say they keep the pick and have Isaiah Thomas mentor Fultz and show him how to deal with adversity and shape him into a franchise player. It's not worth the risk to trade the pick. Markelle is our savior. As a Celtics fan, I thought long and hard about this. If Gordon Hayward leaves the Jazz for the Celtics in free agency, that leaves Utah with Gobert and not much else. So that made me think, what if the Celtics did a sign and trade where they got Gobert and Hayward from the Jazz in exchange for the #1 pick, Jaylen Brown, and Brooklyn's pick next year? It bumps the Celtics up to title contenders and gives Jazz pieces to rebuild around. It's beneficial for both sides. That Jazz scenario though, I mean, if Gordon Hayward did leave to Boston and I was a Jazz fan, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. That's getting a lot of value in return for Gobert. But if I were the Celtics, that is a lot to give up for Gobert, but at the same time, Gobert is literally the perfect piece to complete their team if they got Hayward. He's one of, if not the best defensive bigs in the NBA, and is also an elite rebounder. And like I said, if you are the Jazz, this is a great start to your rebuilding process with Fultz and Brown, plus most likely the #1 pick in next year's draft as well. Now on to today's question of the day. What do you think about the All-NBA teams? What changes to them would you have made? Let me know your answers down in the comment section below. But other than that, thank you once again for watching the video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, don't forget to leave a like on it and subscribe to stay up to date with everything going on in the NBA. And until tomorrow, keep getting the buckets, Team ICC, and I'm out of here. Peace!